Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an AwardsWatch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explore what drives them. Maybe I'll explore what drives them, and go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, the executive editor here at AwardsWatch, and joining me as always, my co-host, my friend, Jay Ledbetter.
And today we're talking about, I don't even know how to describe this film in the context of Sofia Coppola's career. Her quiet rebound, I don't really know, but it's one of her more personal films, I think. Is it the most her more interesting films?
Is it the least talked about film in her filmography? Maybe?
Is that the case?
Is this the rare gem in her filmography?
Well, it depends if you like it or not.
Well, I mean, that's what we're here to discuss today.
But probably, yes, one of her less talked about movies for sure.
Yeah.
The least? It's up there. It's up there.
I mean,
there's all the other talk about.
I mean, it's the most, I would say, quote unquote, not star driven.
No huge stars in this one.
No.
One of her cheapest movies.
Cheap, yeah. Not cheaply in terms of artistic merit or anything.
Budget wise.
Yeah, and it's kind of sandwiched between two of her more popular films that have gotten more, reevaluated.
Marie Antoinette was obviously sort of a box office disappointment. And now this was sort of her, now I'm going to scale back movie.
Yeah, but I would think over the years, Marie Antoinette's been reevaluated. We talked about that with Sophia.
Sure. But at the time, she had to take
she had to take a step back and reevaluate. You know what I mean? And then the next film that we'll talk about next week, The Bling Ring. That's a fairly more popular film for her. Gets her back sort of at least in the
more
pulse.
Mainstream for sure.
Yeah, in the pulse of the conversation.
This is a film that is not terribly interested in being a mainstream hit.
Correct. And I think that's the case when you have the actors in the lead performances that you have here at the time and everything. Jay, we're kind of dancing around what the film is and when
it's somewhere.
It's somewhere, damn it. And yeah, we're going to talk about Somewhere. The movie came out in 2010. Jay, how you been?
I've been doing great, man. I mean, I'm just, I'll tell you, this Sofia Coppola series has been a lot of fun.
It has.
And it's just a series of really, really good films.
It's just you and I today, by the way. Everybody.
Yeah, this is just us. Just us talking about Somewhere.
Yeah.
We've had so many great guests on the series, and we'll continue to have so many great guests on the series. But this is just the fellas today.
Yeah. It's
talking Somewhere.
It's like the last guest list episode we have for a couple months.
Really, yeah, we got a lot of guests coming up. Thankfully.
Yeah, not just for this series. I apologize
for it just being us two today.
Yeah, I'm sorry for all you listeners out there to, want a guest to spice things up.
Suffering.
Yeah, you're just going to have to deal with us today. No, we're here to talk about Somewhere from Sofia Coppola, film released in 2010. Essentially, it's Stephen Dorff and Elle Fanning, right? That's pretty much primarily.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's after withdrawing to the Chateau Marmont, a passionless Hollywood actor re-examines his life when his 11-year-old daughter surprises him with a visit. I don't know if it necessarily, I mean, that's the best way you probably could put this movie on paper.
I mean, it is sort of a movie where not a lot really happens. So that's fair.
It's a movie that I think it's kind of descriptionless almost in a way, because that's the best way to say it. But
movie.
Yeah, who doesn't love a vibes movie? And what's the best place to do a vibes movie in? Los Angeles, California. Yeah. I think it's one of the best ones. Jay, we're just going to jump right into it. Let's just talk about it. Let's talk about Somewhere. You had seen this a while back, though, right? This wasn't your first time.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this movie a couple times. Yeah.
And so just to put it in the context again, Marie Antoinette, kind of a box office, just disappointment. I wouldn't say failure. Yeah. Disappointment's a good word for it.
I think it's fair to say that was her last chance at a bigger budget
for a while.
Unfortunately,
for a while.
I think ever.
Oh, you don't think she'll ever get another chance at a big budget?
No, she might, but since then She's been working like $10 to $12 million range.
I think that she has, no, for sure. And I think she's been squeezing the most out of what she has. And weirdly enough, a lot of her films since are like single location, kind of like this one for the most part. Like this is mostly single location. It feels like a lot of the time we're in this hotel room.
Well, you know what's so crazy is that to me, this movie does feel kind of globe-trotting in a way, despite being this $7 million budget. But this movie feels fairly grand to me. They're going overseas. It's an interesting movie.
It is, and so she kind of scales it back, and she delivers this movie, and this movie it's critically well received. It's. I wouldn't say it's, but it's also just
at
not
the time. It was sort of like, oh, this is interesting
little
mediocre movie. Rebound. Yeah. Like a little minor film.
Like, cool. Sophia's back to making a movie again. And now I think some people have reevaluated it. I think it's the M Word masterpiece.
Yeah, and others 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, that's crazy.
And some people have just kind of like, they don't talk about it because her other films have hit them more. So, Jay, I'm kind of curious for you, what you think of Somewhere.
Yes, this is my third or fourth watch of this film. I'll just say it. This is one of my favorite Sofia Coppola movies.
Wow.
This movie is so fascinating to me, not just because of its small scale, but because of its style. This is a film that goes like 2 beats longer than you think it's going to at any turn, and that establishes to me this sense of intimacy that is kind of unparalleled in her filmography. In a filmography that is very intimate, this to me is like, this establishes a sense of insecurity that is so palpable, but not like depressing. It's really about these people who are slowly opening themselves up to ideas and experiences that they had maybe not previously thought about. And also, I think in its minimalism, it's so funny. You just have like these dancers in Stephen Dorff's room who are going to, like, it sounds like it's being played through a boombox, and they're just dancing on these poles that just break down inside of his hotel room where he's living. Just generally the idea of living in a hotel is very interesting, and gives a real sense of nothing is permanent.
Almost feels like a rest stop for life.
Yes, like, exactly. I mean? And then all of a sudden, he's faced with this reality of, oh, I have to be a real parent now. Like Johnny Marco, his daughter has been dropped at his doorstep, where her mother is all of a sudden like, I don't know when I'll be back, I'm leaving. And this guy who has been so detached from any responsibility whatsoever, all of a sudden is confronted with this daughter who he doesn't know terribly well. And then over the course of the movie, it's like, I love this person very, very much, and I want her to be the most important thing of my life. And Sofia Coppola claims this is not entirely autobiographical, although it is, partially autobiographical. And I think some of Sofia Coppola's best stuff is when she is confronting her entertainment upbringing, which she is doing here to one extent or another. And I just find this film so engrossing. It is, like I said earlier, such a vibes movie where if you let this thing kind of wash over you, you'll be totally won over by it. I find this movie so insightful in its simplicity. And especially now, Ryan, this gets the I'm a parent now bump for sure.
Oh, I knew you were going to bring that one out.
Although I've always loved this film. Certainly, this is the first time I've watched it since I was a parent. I've seen it multiple times before, but this was the first time I'd seen it as a parent, and it hit even harder than it ever has for me. If we're going to do our ranking eventually, This is a threat to be my favorite Sofia Coppola movie.
Oh, that's big. That's big.
And I'm not sure how common an opinion that is, but this movie really hits me so hard. I love this movie.
It is it is an interesting film to really talk about because, and I love that, Jay. I really like the movie too. It really clicked for me a lot. I think this go round. I saw it many years ago, and I think I just was not, I think, mature enough for it. I think it's a very mature movie.
This is an older person.
Yeah, this is an older movie. Yeah, this is for somebody that's gone through a life and some experiences. This is not for the young and the vapid, I think. And I think that, I think that the reason why, and I'm not saying this, fully, but just hear me out. I think that the reason why it speaks to you is, is clear on paper. Like, this is her most, I mean, like, this, I know that she has other male characters in her films, but this is clearly the one where the male character is the centerfold for as the lead of this film. But yet, I think she's plugging a lot of herself in there. There's no question,
no doubt.
There's no question that she is. I mean, I know that you said she's come out and said, like, this is not, by the book autobiographical about her parenting and how she is. But when I watched this movie, I thought about, okay, I read up on things. She does talk about that there are moments between both Johnny and Cleo that are very much taken from her time with her father. Directly. How she is the young girl getting essentially swept up into film festivals and sets and all these things, and how it really is not all clicked until later in life. The movie I thought about a lot when I was watching this, weirdly, was Aftersun from Charlotte Wells. And really about,
sure,
the more
stylistically, I would say kind of similar.
Yeah. And I thought a lot about how that movie is through the eyes of the child, and this is through the eyes a lot more of Johnny. But then if you really do look at it through from Cleo's eyes, you can see that her father is doing the best to put on this sort of performance, but meanwhile there's an off-camera pain that her mother is going through. There's an on-camera pain that we do see that her father's going through. And every little edge of her life is stuck in a duffel bag or in another place where she's essentially not wanted, where she's out of the picture. And I found that to be really interesting because the child that she had at the time is the product of two actor directors who are on the go, who are making movies simultaneously. And what that must feel like, especially for her in this moment where she's coming off of probably the lowest point of her career as a director, coming out of Marie Antoinette, where the film before, she's coming off of the immense high of being at the height of her powers as a director. She was
given a blank check, and then
and everyone kind of went, "No, thank you. We'll reevaluate this in 20 years." Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that that's kind of where we find Johnny here is it's an interesting kind of, I think, continuation of the ideas that she's exploring as a person through the Scarlett Johansson character in Lost in Translation. And then juxtaposing those even more so to, she has divorced, she is at a low point, and the moments that she can kind of, like, you could kind of have her with your child, those are the actual memorable moments, not the photo shoots. Those are actually painful or uncomfortable or sort of like through, you're just kind of going through the motions. Yeah. And so I really find it to be really fascinating. I mean, you're right, Jay, this is a very slice of life movie. I'm big on those. I love the sort of like easy breezy sort of, just a section of somebody's life rather than the whole it's everything.
A bougie slice of life movie.
Yeah. Oh, it very much
bougie,
is.
Bougie, insecure slice of life movie.
Very much. But I really like it, and I think that, I mean, obviously it's got, touches of Fellini and Chantal Akerman, and she showed Paper Moon a lot during the production to her crew, and so she just has all these memories. That's when I watched this movie, I really was able to think about her as a figure in our culture and how fascinating she actually is. And now, how I kind of wanted to go buy the book that she just released, because I feel like,
God, I want to buy that book so bad. It just costs like $125.
It costs it's like a lot of money.
The first runs are out. You got to buy it secondhand.
Exactly. For like $45, $50.
No, way
it'd
more
be like,
than that.
Oh, the secondhand? No,
the
it'd be
cheapest
like,
I've seen is like $125.
Oh, really? Oh, I was talking about the third edition or whatever down the road.
Maybe that's come out. I don't know. The last I looked for it, as I was trying to do some reading for this series,
it's tough. I mean, like,
$25.
It's a big book. Is what I heard.
Big book. It's apparently a good book.
I heard it's very good.
There weren't that many made.
No, but I heard. But I hope there's more made, because I just feel like she's the daughter of one of the most fascinating directors of all time.
Yeah, which is,
and she's now had
influence on this,
and she's had a fascinating imprint as well for her career as an actress and now as a director, as we've been talking the last couple of weeks, and we'll continue to talk about. But I think that this is weirdly enough, this is the movie that nobody talks about enough, but it is actually the perfect representation to talk about her as Sofia Coppola, the person, rather than just Sofia Coppola, the artist. You know what I mean? And yes, all of our movies have been very personal one way or another so far, and will continue to be that. But I don't know, Jay, I think that this is the one where you do get to see a little bit behind the curtain. And it's I think a little bit of a mom or parent trying to look a little bit at how she's going to be a parent going forward.
Yeah. And the daughter of a Hollywood icon.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say Johnny Marco is a Hollywood icon, but he's very in demand. You know what I mean? Still,
he is presented as a pretty huge star in this.
What would be the equivalent of Johnny Marco?
That's a good question, because they do.
You knew I was going to ask that.
He's presented right as a huge movie star who hasn't done anything in a while.
But it also is
kind of how he's presented.
Presented also like an international star.
Yeah.
Right, because he's getting like a is that like an equivalent French award? You know what I mean?
He's kind of a bad
actor. No, but he's kind of a bad boy.
Star. Yeah,
a little bit of a bad boy.
Is he sort of Colin Farrell in like 2000?
No, because Farrell hadn't gone that deep yet. He was not as revered. Yeah, because remember, Farrell uses the 2010s to sort of reevaluate and recontextualize
I'm not even
his
saying
career.
At the time this movie was released, but my comparison is kind of like Farrell in 2014.
Well, that's a good one, but I was trying to think of like more from that era. I mean, it's obviously
of that era.
Yeah, like that 09 to 10 era. Like, who would that be? Like, I mean, is it like? It's not, I don't think, to the level of maybe
Robert Downey Jr.
Pitt. Maybe you could
Pitt at that stage was still like kind of
he just come off
all-American guy. Yeah. That was like Benjamin Button era.
Yeah, like
Benjamin
Button was 08.
He was pretty untarnished.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just trying. No, and I mean Downey had already started the Iron Man trajectory, so that doesn't really work. No, I'm just trying. I'm trying to think of like a really good comparison.
Who was like a superstar, then kind of fell off.
Yeah, I mean you can't say it's. And I mean
in something else.
He's kind of young, but he's not old. You know what I mean? Revered. I mean, I thought a little bit weirdly enough. I kind of thought of like, and I know this is going to bring some controversy in here. But at that time, he was kind of on the decline. I thought of Depp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Depp was the biggest movie star on earth.
Not in not in 08 to 09 at that point. Early 2000. What oh, I guess he did have
Pirates came out in what, like 03, 04. Then he was still riding off the Pirates, and he was a mega
And then
star.
I guess 2010s when what? Alice in Wonderland happens, which is like a billion,
like around
$1.5 billion. I guess so. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's kind of, I guess your comparison for more modern contexts is but trying to figure out like what he kind of was
at that time.
At that time, it's kind of hard to think. I mean, it's an interesting question. Probably have to research it a little bit more to try to figure it out. Jay's going to spend the entire episode now trying to figure this question out.
Looking at this.
He's obsessed with this.
Yeah, you've really given me a challenge here.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break you this early on in the product, but I think it is purposeful to kind of, not just for us, but for the audience as well too.
Is it a little bit of Tobey Maguire, maybe?
But Tobey was never like, I wouldn't think of like international
Spider-Man.
Cinema. Yeah, but like international icon getting, like, you have to think about like America.
Orlando Bloom.
You have to think about that they have delivered performances that are pretty well received. They're a movie star, but they're good long enough success where Hollywood is essentially like, I'm not calling you right now because you're kind of damaged. Maybe Downey is the best point, I guess, to make, because we hadn't really, but international audiences are like, we still love your movies. Like we would, maybe Keanu is maybe Nick Cage is somebody
maybe
like
Keanu.
That. You know what I mean? Keanu might be a good point.
Adrian Brody.
Yeah. I mean, those are people that kind of hung around a little bit. Yeah, hung around the family, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
McConaughey is a good.
McConaughey in 2010 is actually a really
good
comp,
one.
I think.
Yeah, because he doesn't start the McConaissance like we talked about with Killer Joe until like the next year. So it's like, figure your shit out and then you go back into it. And he went into sign of seclusion.
I think McConaughey is the closest.
That's a pretty good one. All right, see, we figured it out. Yeah. Are you happy now? Can you breathe easy now?
No, we'll get back to it later. We'll come up with something better.
No, I think McConaughey is a good one, but no, but it is also like a guy. You know who Stephen Dorff kind of gave me a vibe of in this movie, and it's an actor.
The real Stephen Dorff.
Well, maybe so. Maybe that is just.
Maybe that's the best.
Maybe that's just the best who it is. But no, it was like the way in which he was carrying himself and kind of going from scene to scene and hall to hall. Okay. Was giving me a lot of like Elliot Gould vibes from the Altman era. Yeah, just kind of like an actor that you really like, and even now when he's in things, you're like, damn, he's really good. It's great, but like never.
I just don't know that I like Stephen Dorff that much.
No, I don't like. I'm just saying for this movie alone. Like, I'm just saying like he's got a good wandering presence throughout.
He might have
movie.
A wannabe Elliot Gould.
Yeah,
and maybe that's what's perfect about it.
I think that's great. I think that's
part the scenes that I love so much with Dorff in this are when he kind of goes out of his way to beat his daughter at Guitar Hero, right? Where he's like, I'm not really used to being a dad. I'm pretty competitive, and I'm going to flaunt.
I'm still kind of selfish.
That I beat Cleo in Guitar Hero, and now I'm going to do the encore while Cleo goes and hangs out with Chris Pontius, right? And we've got a whole Chris Pontius tangent to go on. I'm just glad that Sofia Coppola won Chris Pontius in the Spike Jonze divorce. I think that's pretty cool. But Chris Pontius is good in this movie.
Well, I mean they kind of share custody, I think, of Chris Pontius, to be fair.
I think I agree with I think
he was just
maybe Sofia Coppola just gets visitation.
I mean, Chris Pontius of all the Jackass guys seems like, I don't know, like your best friend, your loser.
He's always
best friend
been
on
my
a couch.
favorite Jackass guy. Who's your favorite Jackass guy? Yeah, Pontius has always been my favorite.
I mean, Pontius is kind of great. It's like it's either Pontius or Steve-O. Those are like the answers.
You're a Steve-O guy?
I like Steve-O. I like both of them. I think genuinely I feel bad outside of maybe well, outside of Bam, obviously, because he never kept his act together.
Yeah.
But like, I feel really bad for the Jackass guys because there
I
isn't.
don't know about
there's
that.
there's an well, it's like I'm glad that they've entertained my generation for the stupidity, but you know, reading about all of their like the links that they've gone to do all this and their bodies and how they're going to deteriorate really quickly.
Yeah, Knoxville has legit brain damage.
Yeah, it's super fucking sad. Like it's not like it's like when we were what was it? A couple of years ago, I guess in 2012, what is it? 2022 when that movie came out, Jackass Forever, and what made that movie like fun but not great, weirdly, was the fact that our old Jackass buddies were passing the torch on to a new generation. And I could give a shit about those people.
Jackass 3 was about them getting old. And that was 10 years ago.
And that's rough. And it's a good movie because it's like.
And then they came back for 4. And it was like, all right, we can't do this.
Any of this
we need to recruit some other folks
here. Yeah, when they redid the bull scene and Knoxville is like literally in a coma almost for like a week. And you're like,
yeah, who's in the ER?
Who's enjoying this anymore? It's almost like, I mean, my bones hurt watching it. You know what
Jackass Forever is good.
I mean,
in my opinion, it is the worst of the Jackass films.
Which one do you think's the best one?
2.
2. Yeah.
Because they're all on drugs.
And it's kind of their prime.
It's kind of like how you look back on Eminem and you're like, I'm really glad Eminem has gotten clean. That's awesome. He made incredible music when he was.
Is it the Aaron Sorkin effect?
Mind. I mean, Aaron Sorkin a little bit is the same.
Yeah,
Stephen King is a little bit of the same, right?
Man, Stephen King could never end a film anyway. So, or end a book. I mean, so, but yeah. But no, yeah, it's. How did we get on it? Oh, because of Pontius. I was like,
Pontius,
how did we get on this?
Pontius is very good in this.
He is very good in this. I mean, but again, it's mostly Dorff for the first 35 to 40 minutes, like 40 minutes of this. And then it's really when it becomes about the two of them. Right?
Yeah. It's mostly about how sad Dorff is, about how sad Johnny Marco is. And then all of a sudden he's confronted with this reality of, oh my gosh, my daughter has been abandoned by the person who has taken care of her. And now it is my responsibility. And I need to not have these twin dancers in my room every night as a way for me to fall asleep. Which is a crazy thing. That's how he falls asleep. That is what soothes him, is having these twins assemble their 2 stripper poles and dance to the lamest stripping songs of all time. They're doing Foo Fighters strip teases in the room.
Was it Hero?
There goes
my hero. Yeah.
And then there was another one. I can't remember the other one.
So like, it's not Everlong.
No. It's not another Foo Fighter song. It's something else.
But it's still pretty sad. It's like, didn't he like mix up the?
Well, the other one is very generic.
Is it? I forgot who it was. It's not the Police, is it? Was it the Police?
No. It's
Phoenix.
That song, One Thing. No, it's not. It's an R&B song. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like looking at the.
Yeah.
Just looking at the.
No, well, Phoenix.
Track.
I mean, obviously, Phoenix is a huge part of this movie and a huge part of Sofia Coppola's life, right? I mean, this is.
Yeah, this is the start of her.
All of a sudden, she's working with her soon-to-be husband.
Yep. Yeah, because they're pretty big on the music with this thing. Yeah, Thomas Mars.
Yeah.
And yeah, they marry in 2011. So a year after
right after this movie came out.
Yep. And everything. And you know who was a big fan of this movie? Because of the needle drops and everything, obviously. But then just kind of the slice of life, everything. Another guy that knows how to make really good like snapshot Los Angeles movies.
Linklater?
No, Tarantino.
Oh.
Tarantino really loved this movie.
He loves a needle drop.
He does love a needle drop. He was the president of the Venice International Film Festival, where this unanimously won The Golden Lion, which is essentially the best overall film of the of that. That's kind of big.
That's huge, actually.
That's huge.
That's the same award that Joker won.
I knew you were gonna fucking say that. I knew you couldn't resist yourself in saying that the Golden Lion.
Ebert gave this one 4 out of 4.
Did he really?
Ebert loved this one. Yeah.
Good job, Raj.
Do you love this movie?
I think it's really good.
Yeah. Is this like tier 1 Sofia for you?
Oh, I haven't done the ranking yet.
Yeah. It's hard.
I've seen everything.
This is tier 1. This is tier 1 Sofia for me. I will say.
It's like lower tier 1, upper tier 2. We've established that there's like 3 tiers of this cake. There's nothing really. Well, there's maybe one at the bottom, and there's one.
To me, there's great, really good, and a couple
fine.
Okay, yeah,
a couple okay. I think there's only one.
Maybe just one okay.
I think there's just one.
Maybe just one okay. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it in a couple of weeks. We're just going to tease that out there. Yeah, I mean, like, okay, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the movies that won the Golden Lion.
Yeah. Joker.
Well, Joker's one of them. Nomadland. That's the best picture winner.
Nomadland.
Poor Things last year. Shape of Water. Roma. I was trying to see some other notable. The Wrestler.
I mean, look, that's pretty good company.
Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
Lust, Caution.
I mean, look, I really like this movie.
Monsoon Wedding. Oh, Monsoon Wedding. Have you ever seen Monsoon Wedding? Mira and I. It's really good. You should watch that. Vera Drake. You ever seen Vera Drake?
No.
Mike Lee?
I have not seen it.
I feel like
I haven't really gone down the Mike Lee
the Mike Lee, Ken Loach.
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get to Mike Lee.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Mike Lee's what an interesting fella. He's got some good movies. I mean, you saw Secrets and Lies recently.
Yeah, I did for the first time.
Kevin Jacobson.
Kevin Jacobson.
Yeah.
And the Runner Up His podcast.
It's a good movie, isn't it?
Shout out to them. Oh, it's a really good movie.
It was a really good one. Yeah. Lee's got some bangers, dude. Yeah. So, well, we got to talk about this movie. Like, okay, talk about it. Tell me what you love about it.
It's honestly a hard movie to talk about.
Yeah, I don't want to be like, well, that's it.
Plot. Yeah, it is a movie that just makes me feel a very particular kind of way, and the way that it lingers on its characters and its moments, and just its ability to extract every ounce of emotion out of these very simple moments, I think is its great power. It's the exact opposite of Marie Antoinette, which in many ways is like a maximalist, hyper stylized film. One thing I love about this movie is that Sofia reused Francis Ford Coppola's lenses from Rumblefish to give it a period look, even though it was set in the modern day.
You like the Rumblefish?
I like Rumblefish a lot. Yeah. And this really does have a kind of classic Hollywood look to it. Obviously, the shot of them by the pool sunbathing is sort of the definitive image of the movie, and I think deservingly, but there are so many images in this movie that really stick with me. And just the fact that the one time that he really tells her that he loves her so much is drowned out by a helicopter is just like immaculate to me, and just like so embodies the central relationship of this movie, where it's all about the unspoken, right? And then the stuff that is spoken is the stuff like the guy in the hotel lobby who plays the guitar, where it's just absolutely terrible, but it's so endearing, right? And this movie, I find this movie so deep in its just complete dismissal of obviousness. I think this is such an affecting movie that makes me so emotional. This movie and The Virgin Suicides are the two films that really like give me goosebumps in Sofia Coppola's filmography. It's right up there with the best of her movies for me, and I think Skeet Ulrich is just sort of a perfect. No, not Skeet Ulrich. Jesus, who am I thinking
Dorff?
of? Stephen Dorff. Good Lord.
We're keeping that in.
No, we are not.
Absolutely Skeet Ulrich. Yeah.
It's no. Jesus. Ugh, God.
That's who he is. That's who he is in this movie. Skeet Ulrich.
Yeah, whatever. Johnny Marco is the perfect embodiment of, kind of this washed up Hollywood figure that one Sofia Coppola is entirely familiar with, and also someone who she is so interested in now that she has experienced firsthand this Hollywood experience. And as much as the Virgin Suicides is her sort of adopting an experience that she isn't entirely familiar with, this to me is like, oh, I know this world, and I'm going to completely capture the sadness of this thing that I have lived with for my entire life. And you feel that in the movie. She feels no need to over dramatize this relationship and this experience, which is what I find so powerful about it.
I think the other thing that, and I agree with everything you just said, too.
What do you think of Skeet Ulrich's performance?
Well,
good Lord,
Skeet, what a gentleman. I think that this, like going back to my kind of thoughts earlier about this sort of tying into her, and she's using, again, like you could just see like old Hollywood wise, right? Francis in his heyday.
To be clear, Skeet Ulrich is basically Stephen Dorff, okay?
They look they look the same. They're like long lost brothers.
They look incredibly similar.
Incredibly similar. It was a classic one of a kind fumble there, buddy. But no, I think I can't get it out of my head now. I got to move on. I think that classic shot that you're talking about, them by the pool, it's a memory piece. You could see it as like, because that building has stayed the same, right?
It's a classic Hollywood building that will not be touched in our lifetime.
No, the things on the inside will evolve and change and be different, but its outside, texture will stay the same. And you can see her and her father by the pool. You could see
when
her
it's
and her
zoomed
children.
in, it's a totally familiar image. And then as you zoom out, it's something that 99% of viewers can't relate with.
For sure. And I think
its power. Yeah.
But I think what's interesting about it to me, Jane, is his relationship with Cleo. And also her mother's relationship with her. And how Lost in Translation is a movie that is following two people that are dealing with the concept of where they are at currently within their marriage and the acceptance that they have taken.
Two adults.
Yes. And this movie is about, well, we created something, but are we mature enough to be able to take care of it? Because we're emotionally fragile and can't seem to handle these emotions, let alone the child that we have. And one is better than the other. But still, by the end of it, they have both the mother we see off screen and Johnny have given as much as that they possibly can give their daughter. But it's still not, they're not emotionally there enough. Honestly, this is a very selfish people, to be fair.
Certainly at first.
But sympathetic for sure. Like it's the dance between the two of like, he is inherently, when he's leaving her and everything, we don't hear it, which is again a wonderful tool once again that kind of ties this in with, I think, Lost in Translation too, of like we don't hear it, we really don't get to hear it. It's kind of almost mumbled a little bit. It's not to the same extent.
The loneliness of the wealthy is certainly something that Sofia Coppola is very interested in.
Very interested in. And I think that though everything that he does to kind of cheer up or is, I think of really her making food is actually the more normal thing. Her taking care of herself is the more normal thing. And that's actually the saddest thing about this movie.
Say this. She poaches eggs in this movie. Like,
Holy
very
shit.
impressed by her.
She's making fucking eggs, Benny.
Yeah, she's doing great work.
She's doing great work. Great work. But when you think about
Elle Fanning also, like, what a find by, I mean, obviously she was Dakota Fanning's sister, so it wasn't the most difficult find in the world.
Well, she's clearly like moved past her.
Elle Fanning has lapped.
Oh yeah,
Dakota.
Well, yeah, probably so.
I think so.
Well, I mean, what's Dakota doing nowadays? I mean, she's going to be in the new.
She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, and she's in the Ripley series that's coming out on Netflix, or that's already out.
But Elle had, like, she's got what's the Hulu show that she had?
Oh, The Great.
That's The Great.
Yeah, the Tony
she was like
McNamara show.
The only person on the poster of that show.
Well, it was her and Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah. But she
was the lead, the capital lead.
She is the lead of that show.
I mean,
she's a big deal.
She's worked with
Sofia
Sofia
in a Nick
Coppola.
Refn movie, lead of a Nick Refn movie.
She's been in 2 Sofia Coppola movies. We'll talk about her other one here in a couple weeks. She was in what, like right around this time too. She was like in Super 8.
She has gone far beyond child actor in a way that Dakota has not really been able to.
She's great in 20th Century Women too.
Dakota Fanning was in Equalizer 3, right? It was like a Man on Fire reunion.
Yeah. I mean, like I think she's a little bit more limited in what she wants to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's
I think that's definitely part of it.
I think she's got the kind of Olsen twins kind of. She was the first one out there. The system kind of chewed him out a little bit. The other one gets to go under the radar a little bit.
And it's also
more.
Like she was famous as a child at a time where they could make really good money.
She's famous in Tony Scott, Steven Spielberg movies, and Elle is starts becoming famous in a small $7 million Sofia Coppola movie. You know what I mean? And I think it's a little bit different of pressure, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Stephen Dorff is no Tom Cruise. Hell, he can't even be his own person because we've mentioned Skeet Ulrich on the show and other people that potentially this character is based on.
Skeet Ulrich is so good in this movie.
But like, no, I think that's really, it's really kind of heartbreaking, really, when you look at it, because like you're seeing essentially these artists, and whether she wants to say it's her at that time, but I think that those are fair things to look upon when you're in your lowest point, right? And you're saying all these things that even should make me happy, like being with my child. I'm still not finding the happiness to fill the void that has put me in my darkest place. And I think that that's a really interesting thing to look at. This movie is not optimistic. I think
it's kind of optimistic. I find the ending.
I think it's a little cynical, bad boy. But
I think it's that beautiful middle.
Yeah, I think you're giving it a little bit more than that. But I don't think that's a bad thing.
He has that little smirk at the end.
He's got a smirk of like
rejecting.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Hollow existence that he's.
Well, I think that by the end of the movie, he's just like, I'm rejecting the mundanity that is Hollywood. Like, this is clearly the movie moment where she's also saying, I'm not going to be living in Los Angeles the rest of my life in the industry that's kind of spit me up, chew me out generationally. I'm not going to allow that anymore. And she doesn't live there anymore.
I am abandoning, or not abandoning, but just saying goodbye to one extent or another to the material reality that I've led for so long. And God, I love my daughter.
And hopefully
it's lovely.
And hopefully that leads
and I think it's sincere. I think it's very sincere.
I think it is too, because I think he does miss her. Right. And then but
I don't even think he knew,
but he doesn't want to be
her until this experience.
No. And then he admits the phone call with his ex-wife, admitting, his unhappiness, finally coming to terms with it, but then realizing I can't be alone. Like I have to be with the people that I care, but it's too late. It's too late on that relationship, but it's not too late with Cleo. You know what I mean? It's not too late with his daughter.
I think that
to have that future
relationship is beautiful and it's attainable.
I think that's probably a realization.
And it's almost been forced upon him.
Yeah, but I feel like almost
he checks out of the hotel.
Yeah,
which is
he leaves the car, the Ferrari, which is the most over the top kind of car you could have.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna be me. I mean, it's the most like I'm giving rid of all my possessions and it is very movie starish and whatnot. Like
it's
going minimalist, folks. I'm gonna get a
beautiful way, but then. But if you look at all the stuff where it is like, I can do whatever I want, where it's like, we're going to order every flavor of gelato, two of them.
So and we're going to sit in bathrobes and hang out. Yeah. It's like, you get the best of both worlds, but that gelato experience again is
in this suite that has its own private pool.
It's an artificial feeling, but Jay, it's an artificial feeling. You know what I mean? It's a fun memory, but it's not as connecting as her having breakfast with him in the morning or them having
that's
smaller moments that we see later in the film. Like the ice cream thing, yes, in the grander scheme of it, it's still like they're in this exotic location. He's still like, she's in the dress and everything and going to the award.
But if you're a kid, you're going to remember getting every flavor of gelato in bed in the middle of the night.
Yeah, but the movie is not
TV for the rest of your life.
But the movie's not through her perspective. The movie is through his, really. And it's that I'm giving her this experience, but that's not good enough. Like this memory still, because later on,
I don't know later on down entirely through his perspective.
Well, I think later on down the road, she's going to be just like
I think it's their
Coppola is, where she's going to be looking at it and be like, yeah, the ice cream will melt away. But our bond.
This is interesting. Ryan being more cynical than Jay.
I'm just, it's the
I find this very. I find this to be a pretty.
I think that
sad but touching. Movie with a very optimistic ending.
I think it's kind of beautiful, but I think you look through. I think it is beautiful, but I think you have to look at it through the lens of who is making it. If this is Joe Schmo making this movie, the I wouldn't say meta contextuality, but definitely the story within the story, the history, why a scene like that is put in is through a memory. Well, she has had, when she was young, a very complicated relationship with her father, and it blossomed when she got older.
But not complicated in the same way that their relationship is complicated.
No. But it's amalgamation of, I think it is it is a bond of her past memories and the memories that she is hopefully trying not to have.
It's also her children, apparently the memories of her friend who had a father who is much more aligned with Johnny.
I think it's kind of
as compared to Francis, who was above all obsessed with his work, which Johnny Marco is not.
No, but she was there on set with him and stuff. But in between that work, she probably had some gelato. Because who wouldn't have some gelato with their dad? I mean, like, come on.
Yeah, but that's a lovely memory.
It's a lovely memory, but it's like, you ever have memories with your family where you think about like that?
No, I'm not saying he's a perfect parent.
No, I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying like the memory is a good memory. But then when you peel back the layers of it, what is really on the surface of that memory other than something to try to distract from the real situation that's going on in that moment?
Or even just occupy the kid for a little while.
Yeah. It's like
that's a very real thing too.
Yeah.
You ever have this experience where you think about how you viewed adults when you were a kid, and then you think about them in the context of your experience as an adult, and you're like, wow, this person who I thought was very smart was actually very dumb.
I think when you're a kid and you hear an adult speak, I think this is what you're trying to say. You think that every word is wisdom.
Yeah.
But then when
you're like, oh, this person might have been dumb.
Was that actually wisdom? And some of it is.
Or was that just stuff being said by someone who is older than me?
And was there like potentially like, I don't know, what was the circumstance? Are you at like a party, or are you like at a barbecue, at a cookout? Is
or even anything,
intimate?
A teacher.
You know what I mean? Like a teacher. Okay, like a teacher.
Where it's
I thought you were talking like a family
this teacher
member.
was actually kind of dumb.
Well, I mean, most of them are, but the education system in America. But no, I mean, like, I think we take the things that we think that are valuable, and then we look, and then I think a lot of people, at least what I do, I don't know about yourself, I do look back, more now than I have, earlier in your life, because it's a young person's game. You know what I mean? You're learning and everything, and you're trying to find who you are as yourself. But then, right when I think you hit about our age, when you're in your 30s, you start thinking back a little bit piece by piece, because you can, or you're having children, or you're getting married, or you're buying your house, or you're building your foundation. You think back on, well, how then do I want my future foundation to look, and where were the important pieces or inflection points there that got me to where I was at, and how do I make better great? You know what I mean? Rather than repeat anything that might have not been the best, or think about, like you're saying, we're just like, wow, I was really told that by a teacher or an uncle or aunt when I was 6, and that may have sounded good in the moment, but
it as gospel.
I took it as like for like 6 years. I took that as the word, and boy, was that stupid. Can't do that mistake. Yeah, I think you take mental notes as you go on, and
I think about it. I think this is a dual perspective movie.
No, but
it's not.
Oh, you're saying that
Marco's
it's
perspective. I think it's sort of this joint thing, which I find very beautiful. And then also the other thing is, if I'm looking at it from Johnny Marco's perspective, God, having a kid really changes stuff. I mean, it really, really does.
Yeah.
And
especially when the kids as kind of like, I think Cleo's pretty smart. And
Cleo does seem to be a very capable child. And
it has to be, though.
Because
her parents aren't really capable of taking care of themselves, let alone taking care of her.
Right. That there are two very insecure parents, and it makes me think back on the line that Bill Murray has in Lost in Translation, where he's just like, when you have a kid, all of a sudden you are not the most important thing anymore in your spouse's life.
For sure.
And that is entirely true. And I think that is one of the driving forces of this movie, where all of a sudden you have these people who are no longer the most important thing in the eyes of any adult person. And because they are sort of stuck in this state of arrested development themselves, it's like, I'm basically a child. How am I supposed to be the most important person in a child's life, where I lack the maturity to have a kid? I'm here playing Guitar Hero and operating at the same level of competitiveness that my daughter is. And you expect me to be the most important person in this child's life, to have this person look up to me as sort of an example of what it's like to be a productive member of society. And slowly over the course of the film, he finds purpose, which is so beautiful. I think this movie is so insightful. I really do. And especially even more now as a parent. It's a beautiful movie. I'm getting emotional talking about it. I got to say,
I do hope that he has that.
Great film.
I hope that the possessions and everything, like you're saying at the end, it goes.
Or at least he finds a desire to try to be.
Yeah, I think that
will he succumb to his worst tendencies?
We won't know.
Entirely possible.
But you hope that the smirk, like you're mentioning, is that the proof is to be determined.
But then there's also like,
but I think that's a little bit.
He's incapable of telling her how much he loves her, absent helicopter engine going on.
I think this movie, honestly, as a companion, but then also the inverse of Lost in Translation a little bit. And I just think of it as like that movie leaves you with like, yeah, these people. I think you're a little bit more optimistic maybe there with those people than I think
Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
Oh, I find that movie terribly sad.
See how we are, folks. Yeah. We agree mostly on the films overall, but we go back around.
I find that movie is about people who found temporary happiness that dissolves.
Yeah, that's true.
In the end of the movie, to me is like.
But there's a smile at the end of that movie too.
Unhappy, true.
You know what I mean?
This movie, I'm like people who are terribly unhappy who find purpose in a child, which is inherently an easier, more natural thing to find purpose in.
Yeah, but again, still by the end, when he does confess that she leaves, and everything, when he calls the ex-wife, which I think that the two calls on the phone with the ex-wife are really the thing that you go, well, she's never gonna get there.
They're very important.
They're very important because it's that
it feels like she's gone forever.
She's like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I completely am out of her life, your life. I don't want to see you because she knows if she sees Johnny, she's going to go back to him. Mm-hmm. And it's a cycle of and then she's going to go back to Cleo. And I don't know whether or not that she does abandon her. I mean, she is technically abandoning her child with him for very, very selfish reasons. But she's like, I can't see you. Because it's almost like a recognition of they know how they got here in the first place and how they got into this complicated mess. And she's completely detached herself, which is extremely sad. Because that's where I don't think that character is going to come back.
But also, Johnny's been so absent as well.
Yeah, and he doesn't know how to take care of her either. And he's like, when she first calls and says, Cleo's going to be with you, he's like, I got this thing over here and I got this other thing. And how long are you really going to be?
What do I do? Do I act like a kid too? Is that what parenting is?
Yeah, he still also does a lot of kid stuff, but he also just reaches his obligation point. Yeah. Now, by the end of his obligation point, when he drops her off at camp, the real forwardness for that character would come on pickup day after camp. And honestly, a shot of Elle Fanning standing there at camp waiting for which parent or if any was going to show up.
That's right. I mean, there are those scenes where he picks up the girl in the hotel room. He just can't help himself. And she's having breakfast with them.
Yeah. Literally
that's a
right
crazy
there.
Scene.
And you're like, but Cleo doesn't really mention anything. It's almost like she knows. No. No, she knows that this is uncomfortable. Smart. No, she's very uncomfortable, but it's a lot of from her eyes and her body language. It's all there in the performance. It's nothing said. Once again, we go back to, it's not that Sofia Coppola isn't the greatest, writer of dialogue, but she does much more and says a lot more without actually having to put a line in an actress or an actor's mouth. In this movie,
maybe more than any other. This is one of her quieter movies.
Yes, this is, and then it's therefore every minute and every look and every glance and every position and
such a reaction to Marie Antoinette.
It's the complete opposite because it goes back to what she was kind of doing, which is looking at people. Even though Marie Antoinette is very much looking through people, it's looking at it
in a much more maximalist lens.
Yeah, this is very much, let's strip it all back.
This is just her in a career full of stripped back movies. This is probably her most stripped back movie.
Yeah, and I think I'm liking it more. I'm liking it more as we're talking.
I adore this movie. I love this movie.
Damn, it's a good movie. It's also really well shot.
It's wonderfully shot.
Yeah,
and I think that slowness allows for great, again, sort of photography style shots in the film.
I think it
feel so personal and so I don't even know how to describe it, but it just does feel so intimate in so many ways where you're kind of like, this is so awkward, I shouldn't be here sometimes. And then there are other times where it's like the spontaneity of the situation is so beautiful, even in its quietness sometimes. And then there are even times where Pontius's character, it's sort of like he's being super forward with this girl. I don't know. This is kind of weird. But then he is able to establish this real sense of kind of innocence to it as well. I think Pontius is great in this. And I wish we were able to see him doing more stuff like this. And almost undoubtedly, she met him through the Jackass crew, right? There's absolutely that's what happened.
No way she didn't, because Spike Jonze is a founding member
He's basically the, whatever, 10th member of the Jackass
He is
crew.
the
He's the like third
he
lead
is
of bad grandpa.
I gotta fucking tell you. I know that, hey, we are not talking about him really a lot on this podcast. We don't really need to. That's maybe another
At
series.
this point, they're divorced. Yeah.
Well, that's another series for another time.
And I would love to do that.
That is a easy month of records if we ever had to do
4 movies. Right?
Yeah, that's 4 movies and 4 masterpieces. But
he's one of he's one of my faves.
Batting 1,000. But yeah, it's weird that like the intersection of culture really kind of goes through Spike Jonze for us in our generation with the Beastie Boys and Jackass and his movies.
Also all of these very like meta masterpieces.
And then, it blends in with her work, and then you have his commercials, which he does like a bajillion
Some
Apple
of the most
commercials.
Influential Apple commercials. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Dude is yeah. And he hasn't made a movie for a decade plus now, and it feels like
God, when was Her?
2013? Right?
Right. Oh my God.
We're in a decade plus now. He's going to come back.
Anytime he's in a movie, you're like, this dude can also act.
He's wonderful in Wolf of Wall Street. He's wonderful in Babylon. Movie I'm not really high on, but he's very good in that.
I love Babylon.
He's great in. It's one of my favorite scenes in Moneyball. Where Pitt's like, well, we got her a phone. He goes, and Pitt goes, well, her mom and I will discuss that. And he goes, oh no, it's Moneyball. Okay. And
is Moneyball awesome?
Moneyball rules, dude.
I think it might be awesome, but right now I'm like kind of, it's pretty good.
When was the last time you watched it?
A decade ago.
Super, one of the most rewatchable movies of the last decade.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I watch that movie all the time. It's one of those.
I own it.
I know you. Well, you should watch it. It's one of those. I debate back and forth. It might just
do that series.
It might just be as good
as a short series
as Social Network.
Wow, that's high praise.
I think Sorkin
I love
Heaters.
The book.
Yeah,
which is so mathy.
Oh,
it's so statistical.
I love Lewis as a writer,
and then Moneyball, the movie, is like very emotional. And for me, it was like, no, but I love like the data.
Yeah.
And then the whole point of Moneyball, the movie, is like walks. And it's like, well, that's sort of a.
It's not about walks. It's just about getting on base. Doesn't matter how.
Walks. Yeah,
walks or singles.
Just get walked.
Just get on base. On base percentage matters.
Yeah. How can you not be romantic?
Well, it's also one of the great. Not to get on a side tangent here about Moneyball. It is one of those like great.
It'd be a shame if we went on a side tangent.
It's one of those great movies too, where it's kind of a tragic ending too, and you can look at it as positive, but that really isn't. And this movie's beautiful. That movie's beautiful. You need to do a rewatch of that.
I need to rewatch it. We'll do that series.
You know what movie is beautiful? Somewhere.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to say about it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's a beautiful looking movie as well. And
really well
edited. I really do want to, the editing. Yeah.
Sarah Flack does
where it is just like so many scenes go on for 7 to 15 seconds longer than you think they're going to. And it really gives this sense of true experienced life where it is just this sensation of, I don't really understand what's happening because sometimes there's nothing real going on around me.
Yeah.
There's just this sense of, what am I doing with my life? And you're just looking around, and
I think it's like, Flack's.
I don't understand the purpose.
I think it's Flack's most like weirdly patient work with Coppola in the editing room, because it's about blending the right time to cut from the tension or just the moment or the memory, right? Mm-hmm. And when does the memory cut off? And the memory doesn't always cut off cleanly. It cuts off when it wants to. Just like a dream. Like sometimes you never complete a dream because it cuts off before the you find an answer or you get to the interesting part.
Or it's just like totally unromanticized. This is a giant movie star who can't sleep and has no real lasting satisfaction in his life, real drive.
There's a lot of pain under it.
And it's just like everything just feels a little more drawn out than it should.
For sure.
In a very appropriate way. Yeah. It's an incredibly emotional film. I'm very moved by this movie.
Yeah. I'm liking it a lot more the more we talk
about
it, buddy.
It's Sophia. She's great.
She's pretty good at her job.
But this is, I mean, the question is, well, we'll talk about this as we go on.
Yeah.
I'll just say this preemptively. I like the first half of Sophia's career more than the second half.
Interesting.
I'll just say that preemptively.
You want to hear what I have to say?
Yeah.
I like all of her career.
I like all of her career, but I like the first half more. And I think that has as much.
I think that there's a clear point.
I think this is it.
Oh, you think that this is the movie that then ends it? Like this is the first chapter, and then the second chapter is what we're about to go into.
I think so. Yes.
I think we had the first chapter. There's a second chapter, and I think we're on a third one currently.
I might agree with you on that. We might have just entered the third chapter.
I think we entered that third chapter in the new decade.
I think Priscilla might be the start of a new chapter.
I actually think On the Rocks is the start of the new chapter.
I think,
but I could. I mean,
but this is what she's done 8 movies, right? And this is her 4th.
Yeah,
I think this is her golden age.
So you think she doesn't get any better than this? So you think this 4 run is like her dad's 4 run, and then she kind of every now and then will give you a great film, but she's not getting back to the consistent level of this? Is that what you're trying to get back?
I think these 4 movies are her 4 best movies.
Okay. I disagree on that.
Yeah.
But they're also
everyone's entitled to be wrong.
Yes, you are. And so but that's okay. That's what we're here for. But no, I think I honestly she's someone I haven't even thought about there yet. Because weirdly enough, she's been around for what? She's going on 25 years, right? 99.
That's
so 25 years.
Crazy, but yes.
She's gone on 25 years. She's got 8 films.
Made 8 movies. Yeah.
And I'm not there yet because I still think she still has a lot more to say and a lot more to do.
Yeah. I'm saying
when we talked about PTA, like it felt like there were definitive eras for sure. Mm-hmm. But there were like years and films and all these different things.
There's an argument to be made that PTA only got better over time.
Yeah. I think she has a stumble, and we'll talk about it soon.
I think she started experimenting more.
Yeah, I think she's like her dad. But she's like her dad. Her dad's films were never the same thing from each one at a certain point, and he tried to always do new things and tried to kind of keep the creative juices flowing and not always stay on stuff. And I think that you're right. I think like this first thing kind of closes. I think she kind of goes off and explores a little bit, but I think she's kind of gotten back.
And I think she kind of comes back to what she's best at.
Yeah, and I think she has the last 2 films in the modern era. So I think she's, but yeah, I
think she's awesome. To be clear, I'm not saying she's bad now. Yeah, I'm just saying this 4 movie run to start her career it's
really great,
awesome.
Would you put it up with with like her dad's 4 film run?
No, I would not. No, I would not put it up with Godfather 2, The Conversation and Apocalypse Now. No, that is
that still the greatest 4 film run of anybody in the history of cinema?
Well, it depends on how much leniency you give to people taking long gaps.
Oh, you want to do Malick. That's what you want.
Malick, Kubrick.
I don't think you can have a long gap. Like Malick doesn't count. He's got like a decade of shit.
Coppola's run is not the same as Malick's 4-movie run. It's not the same as some of Kubrick's best 4-movie runs.
There's like a pressure with like doing it in that time span.
That was 4 movies in like 5 or 6 years.
Not even like we're talking. Yeah, I guess so. Like like with
Godfather was 73, 74, and then Apocalypse Now was 79.
So like 6 years. So like contained though within a decade. You know what I mean? Contained within time.
I mean, you could. Altman never had 4 in a row that were that good. Although you could argue his 70s were as good as any, like
his
better
70s
than Coppola's even.
His 70s is the best decade of any.
And then PTA definitely had an immaculate run. Fincher has had some incredible runs.
I'm looking up Altman.
Then you go. I mean, the thing about a lot of older directors was they just worked, and so it was like they would have 4 masterpieces over the stretch of 9 movies, but that's because they made 9 movies in 12 years.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a different world.
I mean,
but then Coppola in the 70s was sort of like on another level.
Altman in the 70s is MASH, Brewster McCloud, McKay Miss Miller, Images, The Long Goodbye, Thieves Like Us. I've never seen that. You've seen it, obviously.
I've seen it.
It's good.
It's okay.
Okay. California Split, Nashville, Buffalo Bill and the Indians, 3 Women, A Wedding, Quintet, right?
Sure is.
And A Perfect Couple. That's his 70s. Popeye's.
Yeah, I mean there were like 5 masterpieces in there, but there's also other stuff.
Popeye's in there. It starts off the 80s.
Popeye is sort of the end of his 70s. Really.
Popeye is like his Sorcerer.
Yeah. Pretty much, go back to our last series. I agree with you 100%.
It's a beautiful movie, and I'm glad it exists. And it also brought upon the 80s and
hard,
kind of made us all in lost auteurs the right to make movies.
Popeye, Heaven's Gate, whatever else.
New York.
One from the Heart.
Yeah.
There's it all combined to introduce us to the 80s.
Yeah, and he gave us,
which I think is actually a underrated.
It's an interesting era. There's good stuff.
Plenty of awesome stuff in there.
There's plenty of awesome stuff. There's also a lot
really good commercial stuff. Really good.
I think
there is really good kind of art.
It's so funny when you like hear like people like Quentin Tarantino.
Mishima came out in the 80s.
Yeah, when you hear Tarantino talk about the 80s and how like the 70s is so great, and he's like going to explode.
And the 80s are terrible. 80s
and the 80s are like the worst thing. And it's like
history.
It's like
no.
There's some great movies there. Like, shut the fuck up.
But it is kind of like the 70s are probably the best decade for me.
I mean, it is. I'm not questioning that, but then like to be like, oh, then we skipped, and now then it was the 90s, and now we're in.
When he started making.
Yeah, and that's when he started making movies, and now he's like,
he saved cinema,
and then he's like, and then now the movies now suck, and I'm like, oh, is it because you're about to leave, Quentin? You fucking assholes.
But it is kind of like, I know a lot of them are blockbusters, but you know what movie rocks? Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a good movie. Back to the Future. Like I'm not obsessed with Back to the Future.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie. Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what else is good? Beverly Hills Cop. Like there's not like there's like some of this stuff's good.
It was a different kind of movie.
Yeah,
but it's good.
It helped to have movie stars.
Those are movies that I could throw on with my family and be like, "Hey, this is like an agreeable movie." Whereas if I threw Sorcerer on, they'd be like,
the fuck's wrong with you?
You're not allowed to pick movies anymore.
Well, you don't get to pick movies with your family anyway.
No, I do. They just don't like it.
So when you're with the in-laws, you get to pick the movies?
No. When I'm with my in-laws now, we just went to see Godzilla Kong.
Oh, did you go with the in-laws?
Yeah.
Okay, time of recording, way to stamp it. But when did they think? Honestly, the best film critic alive is your father-in-law. What do you think?
We actually had a pretty thorough conversation about
really
Godzilla Kong afterwards. Yeah, because
you never say that. Usually he's like okay, and then kind of move on kind of guy, right?
Yeah. Well, it's mostly because if anybody asks me about movies, I'm mostly just like, you don't want to hear me talk about this movie. I'm just gonna.
But he knows you.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
You know?
But then after this movie, I was like, so I have like 10 problems with this movie. I did not particularly care for, is it Kong Godzilla or Godzilla Kong?
It's Godzilla v Kong.
Godzilla X Kong. The X
Yeah.
is silent.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was just like, so I like the parts where it was goofy and Godzilla and Kong were fighting each other. One, this movie is completely uninterested in Godzilla. Two,
it's like in it 8 minutes,
bogged down by lore and world building that is completely uninteresting. And he was kind of like, yeah, I think I kind of agree with you, but also like the big monkey fought the big lizard and it was fun. And I was like, you know what? Fair. I'm glad you had a great time.
You know what he's telling you? Just shut the fuck up and enjoy it. Yeah. You know what he's telling you?
Like, you know what? I did like those parts too. I just wish there were more of them. Was really my review of Godzilla Kong.
Well, your father-in-law would never watch Godzilla -1 though.
Well, I have told him how much I like that movie. I just wonder if he would engage with a movie with subtitles.
Yeah. It's the little bar at the bottom of the screen that gets people.
And that was sort of my other thought walking out of Godzilla Kong. I was just like, oh my God, Godzilla just not only is it better, it just mops the floor with that movie.
Well, yeah, because like those movies aren't. I mean, they are. How do I put this? They are so obsessed with trying to get a good human storyline that they fail at giving you one and forget about the thing that got you in the fucking door in the first place. Well,
that's what's crazy about Godzilla -1. Not only does it have more monster, it also has an incredible human storyline.
Yeah, it has like
it's the best
Coretta level storyline in the middle.
It's like, incredible. That movie's so good. Honestly, let's do that series. That guy's made 2 movies. He's made the Lupin CGI movie, which I liked. I was on that guy before everybody. Ryan, you know that I was like,
yeah, he was.
This Lupin movie is
you were really like you
awesome.
Were. I will say this: you were cautious about that. To be fair, you were like, I don't know, going in, and then you watched it, and you're like, this kind of rules. And then, yeah, you were definitely on that. I'm not saying that you're not.
No, yeah, I was like,
it's kind of like, get the fuck out of my lane.
I mean,
dude.
I didn't know, I didn't know that he would do a Godzilla movie, but I was like, this movie's good. Like, people have not watched this.
What do you want him to do next?
Another Godzilla movie. Let's do it. I mean, who cares? I don't know.
Give him Star Wars.
Give him Star Wars.
Give somebody interesting.
Give him
Star Wars. Give somebody interesting.
I don't know.
Give Sofia Coppola Star Wars.
You can Portrait of a Lady on Fire too.
Give Sofia Coppola Star Wars. She's in Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah,
she is in Phantom Menace. It's interesting that she's making Phantom Menace and she's prepping Virgin Suicides. At the same
time. Is really
wow.
So bizarre how low all of her budgets are.
I mean, looking to being a female director.
I bet her highest budget probably is On the Rocks, just because it was an Apple thing and they just throw money.
How much do you think On the Rocks was? Now I gotta look this.
I'm sure it was inexplicably high because it's an Apple movie.
Well, okay. Now you're making me look this shit up. Right as we're about. Okay, so I would say the Clubhouse leader is Marie Antoinette with 40 million. Right. On the Rocks. Well, of course they wouldn't list it because that would be.
Yeah, I mean every Apple movie is like, oh, we made a documentary about the life of an anthill, and it cost $75 million.
Priscilla was 20. The Beguiled is 10. This was 7.
Yeah.
8.5 for the Bling Ring. Virgin Suicides was what, like 5?
Those budgets those are low budgets. 7 million?
Yeah.
That's a low budget for
6
one
million
of the most celebrated directors of the last 25 years.
6 million for Virgin Suicides. What was Lost in Translations again? That was a $4 million budget.
Lost in Translation was 4 million.
Yeah.
Wow. They made the most out of that 4 million.
I mean, Priscilla being 20 million.
I'm actually surprised it was that high.
Because they didn't use Graceland. They had to essentially recreate it.
They had to recreate everything and pay for some music rights. But it doesn't have a bunch of movie stars in it. I'm surprised it cost 20 million.
What? Priscilla?
Yeah.
It's probably A24 giving her a shit ton of money. But also A24 was the one that really was the one that did On the Rocks. So it was, you could probably say that it was probably roughly around the same.
Yeah, maybe it's possible that Apple just bought it. That's possible.
Yeah, Apple did the distributing, but I think it
might have already been
A24.
Yeah, and it was like they just bought it for.
Yeah, they had it. Remember, because they had A24 had that.
Of money.
Well, A24 had that deal with Apple TV Plus early, in the pandemic, and that's how
that would have been a pandemic movie.
Yeah, and that was how Tragedy of Macbeth the next year goes to the streaming platform. Yeah.
So Marie Antoinette probably top still.
But still 40 million and people are like killing her for that. That's kind of crazy.
And also she's Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. Right? And she can't just use that as leverage to get bigger budgets.
She's also not doing what every other director does though, Jay. She has the privilege of not being like everyone else either, in that she is Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. So she does, and she is a mother, so she's taking 3 to 4 years to make a movie. She's making them on her time.
She doesn't
her
really
creative control. She doesn't sacrifice
artistically.
Yep.
Yeah.
She doesn't conform to studio demands.
Coppola rocks, man.
But there is a cost to that. I mean, like, for the most part, Paul Thomas Anderson has done that too. And now his biggest budget on an IMAX screen, using IMAX cameras and everything, there's gonna be probably some pushback.
Yeah.
For the first time since maybe ever for him. But still, he's Paul Thomas Anderson. At this point, he's not going to get it. You know what I mean?
It's very interesting.
But also, she's making a movie about Priscilla, and she didn't get it. I mean, the only pushback she got was from the Presley family. She didn't get it from A24.
Yeah,
it's who she's working with.
And I think that's actually one of the biggest assets of the movie. But we'll talk.
And I know. I agree. And she's also mostly refusing to do streaming. Like, I mean, A24 got bought that for Apple, but I guarantee you she's not happy about that. It went to that.
But also, look at this run: Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation, Marie Antoinette, Somewhere. What a run!
It's a great run.
And I think these last two have been fully reevaluated, recovered as like great films.
From our perspective, I don't know if Somewhere's gotten all. Has Somewhere gotten all that?
Maybe not. No, and certainly not like Marie Antoinette has.
No, but I think
among kind of the film literati, it's kind of accepted as a.
I love when you use that phrase. That is
a great phrase.
It's a great phrase. You should really TM trademark that shit. Jay.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here,
let's do it.
I'm going to test your award season knowledge based on the film we just reviewed in a segment we like to call It's an Honor to Get Nominated. Jay, did this movie get nominated for any Oscars?
No,
it didn't. Good job. It did get nominated for the National Board of Review.
Was it in their 10?
It was one of the top 10 independent films. So they do it two lists. But she got a Special Achievement Award for writing, directing, producing the film, Sofia Coppola. It won the Golden Lion. And then pretty much everything else is for like Elle Fanning. She got Critics' Choice nomination. So would you nominate this movie for anything at the 83rd Academy Awards?
Oh, man.
So this is the year. King's Speech.
This is the Social Network year.
And this is King's Speech, Social Network year. We talked about this back on the Villeneuve series when we talked about On Sundays.
Is this On Sundays?
Isn't this On Sundays? Yeah. 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 God, remember when we had to talk about that?
Yeah, a lot of people love that movie. We were not quite as wild about it.
They're wrong. Maybe they should watch Somewhere instead of on Sundays.
All right, so I'm looking at. So this is the we're in the 10 now.
Yeah, we're in the 10, baby. Well,
I can definitely throw this in over some of these.
What would you take out? I know one.
Are you
clearly
saying one, or like I could knock out like 5?
Well, no, I could take like a bunch out, but I know that there's one I'm taking out already. I'm taking out 127 hours. Get it out of here. Get it out.
I'm taking out Black Swan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can do that too. I like The Fighter.
The Fighter's good. And you are also like, you're like a personal friend of David O. Russell.
Well, you're the one who had Easter Sunday with him this past weekend, so don't even
It was a good time. He's really good at hiding eggs.
I was going to say. Not funny.
I mean, I would take Aronofsky out of director, obviously, if I take that out of picture. I'd put Sophia in.
I take Bardem out of actor or Franco, and I would put Skeet Ulrich.
You'd put Skeet Ulrich in there? Absolutely.
I'd put Stephen Dorff in there. He's really good.
He is really good.
It's kind of an uninspired 10 here, isn't it?
This is not a great year.
No. The King's Speech winning is just stupid. Black Swan, The Fighter, Inception. You and I are a little bit lower on Inception than everybody else.
Yeah, I'm sort of whatever on Inception.
I'm like, it's good, it's fine.
The Kids Are All Right is all right.
Nobody talks about that movie.
More like The Movie's all right.
More like The Movie's like, good job. 127 hours. That's how long it felt when you were in the theater.
It's decent. It's
fine. Social Network, masterpiece. Toy Story 3,
great
masterpiece.
True Grit gets better every freaking time I watch it. I love True Grit. Oh my god, that's so good.
Oh, how could you say anything bad about the Coen brothers? They're kind of like the goats. And Winter's Bone is like it's a movie.
It's
good.
I'm happy that we have Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. Well, I think we would have had her probably with or without Winter's Bone, but
that was the one though.
Yeah, I got her the Oscar nom. You know what's this year that I love? I don't know what you think of it. Blue Valentine.
I love Blue Valentine. It is the scariest movie ever made.
I love Blue Valentine. I love The Town.
The two scariest movies ever made.
Okay.
Blue Valentine and Synecdoche, New York.
Oh, Synecdoche like gives me anxiety when I watch it.
Yeah, we should do Kaufman.
It's only got what, 3 films?
Yeah, that's a short one.
Synecdoche, Anomalisa, and I'm thinking of Ending Things.
Are those the only ones?
Are those the only ones? Well, because he writes a lot, but he's like he's like Garland. You never know when he starts writing and when he starts directing.
Right.
Sad to see Alex Garland go, I guess. Was the news around town. Yeah, it's an interesting little year. I would put Coppola in there.
Yeah, those are the only 3.
What did you nominate this in, like editing?
Yes, 100%.
What would you take out there? Would you take out Black Swan for editing, or?
Yeah, just take out Black Swan of.
I take King's Speech out of that.
Yeah, I would actually take King's Speech.
That's a pretty fucking bullshit nomination. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, it also has a pretty great score.
Well, yeah,
Phoenix.
I would take out Danny Cohen for the King's Speech, and I would put it in cinematography easily. Actually, my go-to would just take out the King's Speech out of everything. Like, that's just
the King's Speech is honestly overhated at this point.
No, but like if I'm gonna take out personal things, like I'm gonna take out the movie that is like the most bland, stiff upper lip sort of pick here. I mean, at least for Black Swan, like, you know, I get the editing nomination. It's pretty good editing. Lebetique's cinematography is pretty good. I wouldn't nominate it for a fucking screenplay or anything like that, or director, but like I get its technical crafts. The King's Speech looks like anything I could watch on the BBC. And it looks
I'll tell you one other thing that I was just thought of.
Here we go.
About Sofia Coppola movies. If Sofia Coppola movies, a lot of them, and I think this one maybe in particular, if they were made by a man, people would find them so offensive. And I love that about her movies.
What do you mean?
I mean, I just think about some moments like when the girl on the balcony below him just flashes him, and the twins on the stripper poles, I think is
or the Scarlett Johansson controversy we talked about.
The Scarlett Johansson, yeah, exactly. The Scarlett Johansson underwear shot at the beginning of Lost in Translation. I just find that very interesting in her career, and I find it admirable as well.
How would a movie like Marie Antoinette have been looked, though, from a male perspective? If that same film is shot the same, made the same, all that, I think that it gets praised more than it gets trashed.
That's interesting. I
think it goes both ways.
Disagree with that.
No, I think somebody goes, "Oh wow!"
See, I don't know that movie to me is so inherently feminine.
Yeah, that's the point. That's what I'm making here. It's like I think if like, I'm not saying that this person
that one
would
just
do
feels
it.
like it couldn't have been made.
No, it couldn't have been. But I'm just saying we're playing hypotheticals here. You're putting a hypothetical. I'm putting one. Let's say somebody that's very can friendly, right? Because that's where that film premiered, right? So let's say like Tarantino, for example, or Soderbergh, or somebody makes that movie.
Mike Lee,
yeah, Ken Loach, not a somebody that's
Todd Phillips at the Venice Film Festival.
Ruben Östlund, right? You know what I mean? Who's won 2 Palme d'Ors. No, let's say a white man makes that movie, and in that time and everything, and Tarantino's actually a good comp because he uses needle drops and stuff like that. So let's just say it's that. Does it get the pass, or do people say, "Wow, Quentin, I can't believe you did that movie differently"? Because I mean, look at how Tarantino did like Inglourious Bastards and Django, and I'm not saying it's the same thing, but it's
the most extreme comp of that is Blue is the Warmest Color, right?
Yeah.
It's like at the time it was obviously celebrated, and now it has kind of been
won the Palme d'Or. Spielberg gave it to it, criticized. And everything.
Yeah, Spielberg was like, wish I could make this movie.
I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have done what they're doing with E.T. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, but
that's a weird one. But no, it's an interesting sort of thought experiment to do.
But I think
I don't know the answer.
I don't think it fully works, because I think she's just unique in her own way. I think that it goes back to what you're saying about like she's a director that gets these low budgets, but she gets all this creative control, and it's her unique vision, and no one else is touching upon that.
Fully.
I mean, like you're talking about her low budgets. A director I love, and he's had a couple of big budgets, but he hasn't had like a huge budget, is Spike. You know what I mean? Like Spike Lee is, and we don't know how much. I don't know how much
a woman and a black director, yes,
in Hollywood, as opposed to like, I mean, the production design on her films alone rival anything that you see that of the big films that are nominated every single fucking year at the Academy.
Yeah,
like I would take. I
mean, I guess the one exception is like Nancy Meyers, who makes a movie about a woman cooking in a kitchen, and it cost $175 million.
Yeah, but the movie makes like $500 million at the box office. Exactly. So she's an anomaly. Yeah, but she's also making those movies, I think, for a specific audience, and I don't think that.
No, Sofia Coppola is not going for the Nancy Meyers audience.
No, she's making movies really for her. And her audience.
Yeah, I mean, that rocks.
And indie audiences. She's not making it for like.
She's got her dad's.
She's
mentality.
Sadly, she's not making it for your father-in-law.
It's a darn shame. Godzilla Kong, Sofia Coppola, Forever You Wrestle Inside Me.
The Priscilla edition. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not coming anytime soon. All right, buddy. Well, tell everybody where they can find you and all your work.
Yeah, you can find me. Lead with Letterboxd. Find me at Letterboxd. Just search Jay Ledbetter on there. You could find any work I'm doing over at awardswatch.com. As far as recommendations for the week, um,
what have you what
honestly,
trash
I've been
action
so
movie have you watched?
consumed by Sofia. I don't really like have anything
What's it?
new to recommend.
You don't have like a TV show maybe you're
Well,
watching
we've
or
been
something?
watching Only Murders in the Building. It's pretty good.
That seemed like the weakest damn recommendation you
I
ever
mean, it is
given.
the weakest recommendation I've given.
You better watch something
I know.
for next week, damn it.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm having a pretty good time with it. Steve Martin is I like him.
Oh, I would. Martin Short's the guy that steals the show.
I mean, Martin Short's great as well.
Selena Gomez is great too.
Yeah, it's a good show. I'm
show.
underselling it. It's a good show.
It's a very good
I'm
show.
enjoying it.
You can find all my work at awardswatch.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade77. If you like podcasts, we have our main show that is released every Monday because this show is released every Thursday. iTunes, Spotify, 5-star reviews. We greatly appreciate it. Go over to the website also and sign up for the newsletter. It's where you can get all the reviews, interviews, podcasts sent to you weekly, twice a week. Easily able to access all the things that are going on the website. I have a recommendation. I've seen some movies. I'll pick up the slack for Jay. It was a movie I wasn't able to catch at South by Southwest this year. It's a documentary. And
the other part is I've watched a bunch of stuff I haven't liked.
Well, you can say something that you don't like. You can be like, try to avoid.
I can't recommend something I don't like.
Yeah, you can recommend to not watch it. That's the beauty of this.
Is that a thing we could do? I don't think we've done that.
Well, I think it is our job to make sure that they don't want the listeners watch good things and also don't watch things that are good either.
Wow, this is a new angle. I don't want to get negative like that. I'm not going to do that.
I think what, you're not going to be negative like that as opposed to like how you are normally.
No, okay. I didn't care for Drive Away Dolls.
Okay, there you go.
All right, that's all.
And you
that's
said you weren't, and you said you also weren't a fan of Kong versus Godzilla or whatever the hell the thing is.
No, or Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Yeah, you've been really. It's 2 episodes now that you mentioned Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Yeah.
Sure you're not turning around on it?
No, I didn't care for it.
Okay. I watched this documentary. It was on HBO Max, and it's a documentary called The Truth versus Alex Jones, and it was really good. If you don't know what it's about, obviously Alex Jones is the guy that runs InfoWars, and he's a conspiracy theorist online.
It's Ryan's favorite broadcast.
No, that's not true. Don't even try to get me into that, into trouble like that. But essentially, this film is about. He made a lot of allegations that the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary was fake. This follows a lot of the parents and them having to sue him for defamation and having to prove, that their children were real, and against a lot of the fake news that's going on out there in the country. Thought it was a very moving documentary. I obviously it was sort of basic like level understanding of Alex Jones. And a lot of this stuff was covered online over the last couple of years, these trials. But to really understand like the behind the scenes, they were given on access by the court, and to understand the sort of links that not only Jones, but a lot of the people that he associates with would go to continue this lie. And then also the pain that that these families were going through, and how sort of how they were victimized. I thought it was a really fascinating documentary. It's pretty what I just said is what you're going to get, but nevertheless, it's still very impactful, and it's very hard early in the year to find good gems of documentaries, and I think given the state of how everything is in the country and how we'll have it over the next couple of months with everything, it's kind of like an important one to kind of watch and understand, like why a figure like this, who you could think is just this crazy guy that you see on the internet, why it is important for these lies to not spread, because it can go into a wildfire and get out of control. So I thought it was a very good documentary.
I got a recommendation for you.
Here we go. Anyway, it's on HBO Max. Go and see it. What is your recommendation?
Beyonce album, good.
You're just gonna say Beyonce album? You're not gonna call it?
The country one,
the Cowboy Carter.
Yeah,
you sound like my family right now. Have you listened to that Beyonce album?
It's good. She covered Blackbird. I like that.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I think it's quite good. 27 songs. She's bringing back the skits too in between.
The what? The skips?
Yeah, the skits.
Oh, the skit.
Like kind of the in betweener intros to the next song.
Yeah, she got like Willie and Dolly Parton and
Big Willie style.
Well, not that. Well, Willie Nelson, but you know what I mean. Not Big Willie style.
Big Willie style. Willie Nelson.
No. No, I think it's really good.
Tax problems.
Next week we will be back. We're gonna be riding in our fancy cars and stealing stuff from the Hollywood elite. We're gonna be talking the Bling Ring next week.
I want to rob.
Oh, you do? You sure about that, Jay? All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I know who to send the feds after now. We'll be back next week with our guest Nicole Ackman will be joining us. So thank you all.
Have to listen to just us two idiots next time.
Yeah. Though I think we did a pretty good job. Not to just
I love this movie. This movie makes me very emotional.
It's a very good movie. Go watch it. It's what I think you have to rent it, right? Somewhere. Was it Amazon Prime?
This was on a service, I think.
Was it on Pluto TV?
I can't remember.
Was it on Pluto?
It was on my favorite service, piratebay.com.
You know what it is? It's somewhere. And that's
it's somewhere. I feel like I did watch this on a streaming service.
Anyway, thank you all. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.